What's up everybody, this is DJ Skandalous and this is vlog number 4. For this vlog I wanted to focus on a unreleased 2Pac album concept that he wrote down in 1996. This album concept I believe would have been the best album released after his passing if his estate had released it. This album focuses on the 1996 Death Row era content before the Machiavellian One Nation sessions, but it followed All Eyes on Me. And for whatever reason, this album was never released. I'm not too sure if 2Pac just moved on because he was recording so much content or because he didn't like the material. The majority of the material is great and features great songs like Hit 'Em Up on it, and which actually came out as a video version, and a radio version also was released of that song as well. So it's not like the content was too boring or too bland, and a lot of songs that we have of it are fully mixed down and fully finished with the exception of a couple songs. So I just wanted to focus on this album, and I believe that if his estate would have released it, it would have probably won 5x platinum in 1997, and it would have followed Machiavelli album pretty nicely. So let's dive into this album. I just want to give a shout out to TupacLegacy.net. That's a new website that I'm partnered with. As you may know, I have my own forum related website, which is TupacBoard.com. Our TupacBoard.com is now partnered with TupacLegacy.net, which has been around for over a decade. And I'm going to show you a brief preview of the website, and I'm going to show you how you can find some content on there as well before I dive into this album track list that I believe would have been on par with Machiavelli and the Me Against World album. Okay, here you go guys, this is TupacLegacy.net, and the first thing you will see is a lot of content here. There's a lot of content about unreleased songs, there's content about live performances and live footage, there's content here from various people associated with 2Pac and interview related form. As you see, here's the news bar. Here's also a music bar, which you can find guest appearance, lyrics, original mixes, singles, soundtrack versions, stuff like that. So if you really want to get educated on 2Pac, this is a great site to start at. There's also a video section here, which you can find fan-made remixes and mixes, guest appearances, and you can just play these and it'll play right off the site. You can still go to my forum at TupacBoard.com, which is located right here, and this is going to be the main forum of that website, but you can still use that web address there to go to this website here. So let's start here. We'll just go to search bar right here, type in 100%. Here it is right here, and I'm just going to read this right off the screen here. This was an album he was working on after All Eyes on Me and before One Nation and Machiavelli albums. This album went through many different track lists and name adjustments. The album title was later changed to Outlaw Immortal, Still I Rise, and Thug Life Volume 2, which I will go over those albums in future vlogs. This album never came out because 2Pac began work on a diss album after this and then worked on One Nation Machiavelli albums. Now that kind of is unconfirmed, but Suge Knight did tell 2Pac that he wanted a diss album which would have featured many songs like Hit 'Em Up on it, as well as many other songs like Made Niggas on it and The World's Mine, which is still unreleased to this day, which is a 6-minute Nas diss. So this album, as you see here, some songs he did release, such as Hit 'Em Up, but then the majority of the content was still unreleased after his passing. So this album could have came out without any edits, without any changes to it, and been a solid album, I believe. So first here, we're just going to go off Hit 'Em Up. Hit 'Em Up was released while 2Pac was alive and has a radio version. I would have still used it for this album. And what they could have done is they could have offered a new video with the unreleased footage. As you see, when I post on my Facebook or on my YouTube, I posted very different versions of Two of America's Most Wanted and also Made Niggas, the video version, which is, you know, various scenes, and the majority of content was not released the way it was. See, when 2Pac recorded videos, he recorded videos in every set and every set of clothes. So there's probably 20 hours, 30 hours of video footage from all these different videos that are still unreleased to this day. So the estate could have went back in and like took the footage and made a new rendition of that video. And as you see with various music videos that I create for my own remixes, I try to use unreleased content and footage in there from these videos as well. So for Hit 'Em Up, there is a demo version of this song with a different Tupac verse, different Gaddafi verse, and Storm as well. And it also features the same Idol Joe vocals. But I would not have released that version just yet, because that version is also on this Thug Life Volume 2 Still I Rise album. So you could have released the official version that Tupac, released in, I think it was April of '96. But since that was not officially on any Tupac album, it was probably a sought after song, a valuable song that collectors wanted. So this would have been the perfect opportunity to release this album after the Machiavelli album, and also had that song featured on it, which I would think would have gained a lot of hype and would have got a lot of people to actually go after this song and this album. So for that one, that would have been a great intro to the album. You could have made a new rendition and have it as a third or fourth single. Words to My Firstborn, I believe this is the version with Nutso. There is another version called Things Are Changing, which has a different chorus, it's the original chorus on there from the sample is on there, but the Tupac vocals are a little bit different. He actually raps a little bit longer, and the outro is not as long. The intro is a little bit long there compared to the Words of My Firstborn. But what actually happened is he recorded Things Are Changing, and for whatever reason, a couple months later, he recorded it again as Words of My Firstborn, changed it around, removed the chorus, and had Nutso added. But as you see with Words of My Firstborn, the vocals are more, the flow is a lot better compared to the other version. So I believe this is the Nutso version because he actually labeled it there as Words of My Firstborn. Troublesome 96 is the third track here, and this is actually the 96 version, not to get confused with the 92 version, which is still unreleased to this day. But I believe this is the 96 version. There's also a version that's unreleased that has a different Tupac verse, also known as the Criminal Times verse. You can find that on YouTube if you just type in Tupac Criminal Times extracted verse. And we aren't too sure if this was the initial verse that Tupac recorded for the song and he just scrapped it, or if this was another song that he recorded over the same beat, which he did many times with songs like Never Be Peace and Never Call You Bitch Again, as well as other tracks. The fourth track here is Made Niggas, which at the end of the track list here he says bonus track, not on this album, which I'm not too sure how he would have released this. If the video was just going to be a street video and not on the album, or it was on the B-side of the single or something, but I would have still included it here. And as you know, there was a lot of footage there. They could have made multiple versions of this video and released it as a street video. Now, it being a lot of explicit content and lyrics in it, you can't release it probably as a lead single or second single, but it could be still a street video that you can release to promote this album. Moving on, this is When Thugs Cry. That's track number 5, and this version you can find on the internet. It has the Fragile Sting sample. However, there's various versions where Tupac's singing the hook and also has a female singer. Now, they could have released the female singer version on this album because Tupac also revised this version in 1996 and July of '96 for the Machiavelli album. So you'll find a version where he has a different intro and an outro about his grandmother. Then you'll find another version where he's saying a prayer in the intro and also the outro, which they actually used for the remix. So if I was looking at this from the perspective of a 97 album, I would have planned out all these albums before I even released my first album. That way I would not have used the same version on different albums. So then I would have came across this and I would have seen that, okay, When Thugs Cry was actually revised for the Machiavelli album, but we have different versions, so we can offer one here and offer the other take on the other album. So I would offer the When Thugs Cry here with a female version, still with the Sting sample, and I believe you wouldn't need to swap it out, but if you're going to swap it out, you could probably swap out this track for songs like Until the End of Time or Unconditional Love. Moving on, this is Friend Like Me, which is Never Had Friend Like Me, which was released on one of his movie soundtracks in mostly original form, so there's really no need to really change that at all. Track number 7 is called Never Call You Bitch Again, and this is a solo version that he recorded. He also performed this at the House of Blues in July '96. He recorded this solo version, also recorded a version with the Boot Camp Click for the One Nation album around June of '96. But this version does not have a chorus, it's just a strictly Tupac solo. It mixes in some vocals of Danny Boy from the Never Be Peace song if you find it on the internet. And that's because what Tupac did is he recorded Never Be Peace first, and then he just, for whatever reason, he wanted to use that beat again, so they used the beat and used the chorus vocals from that song from Danny Boy, and Tupac recorded new verses for Never Call You Bitch Again with the Danny Boy vocals still intact. And then around July of '96, or June of '96 I mean, Tupac re-recorded that song yet again, but it also had Val Young featured on the vocals after his verse. But for whatever reason, this does not have the Val Young chorus, so I believe I would have mixed in the Val Young chorus for the solo version, and then if I was going to release the One Nation album, say in '98 or '99, I would have probably still had Val Young on there, or had someone like Mary J. Blige do the chorus for that version, so they would have been very distinct versions and you wouldn't have been recycling the same content. Moving on, track number 8 is Fucking With The Wrong Nigga Part 1, which was released on Until Then Time, pretty much the original as it was, just with some slight echoes added, so there's not really much to talk about that track. But you can find a version on YouTube where Tupac has more of a longer intro where he mentions getting clearance for Big Syke's name. Track number 9 is called Mama's Just a Little Girl, and that was the song released on the Better Days album in remix form. The original version actually features Danny Boy, and the main instrumentation sample is from Sade's Jezebel song. You can find the original version on YouTube. This version does not have a chorus at all, even though Danny Boy did record vocals for it, but for whatever reason this mixdown that we have on YouTube has his vocals muted. So it may have been an early mixdown of the song before Danny Boy actually got to record his vocals, but we know Danny Boy actually did record his vocals because there is a Death Row remix with Danny Boy humming in the background saying Mama's Just a Little Girl. But the original does not have any chorus vocals at all. So if I was going to release this, I would probably add in Sade. You know, I would have probably approached her and asked her if we could use her vocals or she can sing, you know, new vocals for us. You can find a very amazing version of the original with Sade's chorus added to it on YouTube, as well as more instrumentation from that song, which sounds beautiful. Moving on, Who Do You Believe In? This is a track that features Gaddafi, also released on Better Days, mostly in original form. There's not much different except for some echo and vocal effects. Thug and Me, this is a song that's probably one of his best unreleased tracks, and they butchered this to hell because they removed the sample. The sample is the Liberian Girl Michael Jackson song sample that also samples MC Light's Keep Pressing On or something like that. What they did is they removed the sample and they used it on Letter to My Unborn, and they gave Thug and Me this crap remix. The Johnny J remix is pretty good, but they destroyed a perfectly great song that had Jewel on it, the Liberian Girl sample, but I can see why they did it, because they wanted that sample to be used for a single worthy song like Letter to My Unborn, because there was not a lot of curse words in it, and this song has a lot of curse words all over the place. So I believe that's why they removed the sample for that track. The final track here is track 12, which is Fucking With The Wrong Nigga Part 2. Now, if you're a hardcore fan, you're probably wondering what this song is, because there is not a unreleased Tupac song in the vault that's called this. There's not a released Tupac song on any album called Part 2 that's a sequel to the first version that also appears on this album. But if you go over the content of his unreleased songs, you'll find that he does mention the same exact title in another song that's called Tongue Kissing, which is still unreleased. He ends every verse saying, "Why you fucking with the wrong nigga," which I believe is probably the Part 2 version, but for whatever reason on the various album leaks and album track lists and stuff like that, that released on the internet. I think it was a fan-made name called Tongue Kissing. So I believe that is actually the real name. At one time it was called Fucking With the Wrong Nigga Part 2, so that would have rounded out the track here. So as you look, this is probably from top to bottom on par with Machiavelli, but the only thing is you don't have many great single worthy songs you can create a video. Main Niggas has a video by Tupac, but it's too street oriented, too explicit to release it on MTV back in '97. You could use Where's My Firstborn, which I believe would have been a great single, but the problem is they had problems getting over that copyright clearance, because not a lot of people wanted to associate their songs from the '70s with Tupac, but that was a big misfire on their part, because when like fans like me hear a song like Staring Through My Rearview, we're like, oh, that's a great sample, so I gotta go back and find what song Tupac sampled, and then they're introduced to the Phil Collins and the Air of the Night song. So that's the way it worked for me. When I heard a lot of Tupac songs, I would go back over and listen to samples, and I would have become an instant fan of those samples and those artists that he sampled from. So they could have used Where's My Firstborn as a lead single. They could have also used probably Who Do You Believe In. Thug and Me would have been too explicit again, or they could have also used the Tongue Kissing song as a third single. But for the most part, I believe to make this the best quality album, I believe they would have had to add a couple tracks to it to make it 14 or 15 tracks, and these would have been single worthy songs. So the two additions I would have probably have added were either Changed Man with Big Syke and Nate Dogg, and this would have been a great single back in '97. You could have Nate Dogg in a video, in a car, or in a club with Big Syke with a Tupac lookalike, and I believe that would have been a great single to really push this album out. Also, but the only problem with that, there is a Still I Rise Thug Life Volume 2 album, which that track would have been great for that album as well, or a Thug Pound album that's still unreleased that features songs like Dumpin', This Life I Lead, Just Watching, If There's Secure, Me and My Homies. So that would have been probably more suited for that album to be a single for that album. So another track I would have probably added is actually the I Ain't Mad At You radio single. As you may know, this came out in September 13th, 1996 after his death, but the problem was this video falls in between the Machiavelli album and All Eyes on Me. As you know, Machiavelli album was released in November of '96, so the problem is you have this video and this song that comes out, and maybe it was great at the time because people were like, oh, he's still alive, but you know, he just passed away, so why are you trying to build up the alive theories already? Even if Tupac faked his death, he will not be trying to tell people he's still alive right away. So I believe they released the I Ain't Mad At You video probably at the wrong time, even though it created a lot of hype. It just didn't have an album to promote. So, you know, people that listen to that song, they're like, how can I get that song? You know, it's not on the All Eyes on Me album. There's another version of it on the All Eyes on Me album with different beat and different vocals and different third verse, but even if they would have purchased that, they would not have gotten that song. And then also, you're already going to promote Machiavelli album probably the month later in October, or maybe in November. You had to toss it up to Live and Die in LA, so it just seemed like a wasted spot in between there. So I would have kept that song and video to release it the following year, September 6th or 13th, 1997, and it would have been the main single for this track. And then within that video at the end, I would have said that the album also has Hit 'Em Up on it. Another track that they could have added here was Unconditional Love, which, going over a lot of track lists, there's really no mention of it at all, but I believe that was for the Me Against the World 2 album, which Ballard Dead Soldier, Little Homies, songs like that, and there was really no need to put it on that album because that album has a lot of single worthy tracks. You know, they could have used Never Be Peace as a single, they could have used Doug's Mansion as a single, Until Another Time, Are You Still Down with John B? So there was a lot of tracks already there for that album to have single-worthy songs, so they could really use that song and moved it over on here, and had a great follow-up single to I Ain't Mad At Ya. Then you followed up with Unconditional Love, and then you could have also had Where's My Firstborn or Tongue Kissing as your third single, and then Made Niggas as your street video. The Unconditional Love, you know, the Realist was in the video, so I believe around that time that would have been the perfect, you know, video to promote this album as well. And I don't think it would have very adversely affected the Greatest Hits album, because you still had changes. You could have released All About You radio version with just Tupac, you know, all throughout as your second single, and you still had Pain original version and radio version, which you could release as a third single with the Arsenio Hall live footage. So as you see here, guys, I believe this would have been probably on par with Machiavelli and Me Against the World. The only reason I wouldn't say it wouldn't be on par with All Eyes on Me, because it's only a single disc. All Eyes on Me counted both discs towards its sales. And also, there's not really that many pop worthy or club worthy tracks on here besides Thug and Me, unless you add Changed Man or any other track. So this is pretty much the track list I would have used. Hit 'Em Up, Where's My Firstborn, Troublesome, Made Niggas, When Thugs Cry, Never Had a Friend Like Me, Never Call You Bitch Again, Fucking With the Wrong Nigga, Mama's Just a Little Girl, Who Do You Believe In, Thug and Me, Tongue Kissing, and then also Unconditional Love and I Ain't Mad At Ya. Alright guys, that's it for vlog number 4. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it below. If you would like me to review any other Tupac albums and concepts, just let me know. Peace out.